Okay, Brett, can you please explain why you resigned from TBB? Everyone wants to know the answer to this question.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a shock to a few people, not the most myself, but over the last couple of months, the happenings have been happening in triathlon, and I've been commentating on them, and I've just been giving honest opinions. And within our group, it would seem that people are now starting to feel that my comments are causing problems for the team itself. And basically, it made me stop and rethink what teamTBB was all about, what it was when we started, what was our mission, and it would seem to me now that the mission is now starting to become part of the mainstream triathlon. So from my perspective is that we were always trying to make a change for the sport, and I think after the happenings of the last couple of months, it's quite obvious to me that the team is now becoming part of the establishment rather than being part of the people trying to change the situation.
But I'm a little confused because I was under the impression that you were actually 50% owner of the team, and it seems to have gone in its own direction, different to yours. Can you explain that, please?
Yeah, well, it's very easy to explain. I've got, I've got a business partner, and I've got members of the team, and I have a vision and had a vision for a long time of what I think teamTBB could do for the sport. I make no bones about it. I'm not interested in the results. I'm a little bit handicapped by the results we get, actually. There's all that'll see watching teamTBB. I've never recruited top-class athletes. I think the only one that came in our team that wasn't in need of desperate help was Jodie Swallow, was a world champion. However, Jodie, in that situation, and I think she even made it public, she was at a down time in her life. So what we've tried to do always is to help the underdog. And I sit here and see the team doing well, and then see that the underdogs then turn into the problem themselves. I've watched triathlon for 20 years now, and the same thing happens every time you get in a situation where the sport needs some support, needs to be changed. People back down, that they take what they call the soft option, and we're going to softly change the sport. And I've been watching all different generations of people. It's not the new ones. I know I've seen publicly Jordan Rapps come out and say, well, I'm trying to take the soft option. Well, I've watched people take the soft option now since 1991. And the soft option always leads to a more stranglehold of the sport by not the custodians, but the shareholders. And I find that the present moment that I was moving and have been moving for the last 2 years, teamTBB into a situation where they could make a difference and could stand up and could say we can do the sport a bit differently. And not just for the pro athletes. That's where it all gets lost in the wash. Robbie, I started with an age group team. You're around me. I'm always helping the age groupers. I helped 3 people this morning. I don't even know their names. They'd just come to Cozumel for a holiday. And I couldn't help myself. I had to tell them what to do. I didn't run down with a checkbook and a receipt book and say, give me $150. You're talking to the best triathlon coach in the world. That's just not who I am. And I find, am I going to sit there and have a fight with my partners or the athletes? Everybody's saying, well, they don't know what the plan was. Everybody knew what the plan was. With the athletes, I turned around and said to them, well, next year you're going to have to sing for your supper. We're going to have a set menu of salaries, and then the rest will be put into race situation. You have to race your fellow team members. Well, then all of a sudden I had the athletes say, well, that may be not such a good idea. I thought it was a fantastic idea, because every year I've got athletes telling me, I want more, I want more, I want more. Their performance is less, but I want more. I find it very difficult because I like these people and they're not getting any money in the sport. So how do you think it feels when you turn around and say to them, this year you've got to take half a pay cut because you've been out injured all year? People don't see that side of sport, especially this sport. And so it's very difficult for me. So I was, from an athlete point of view, I was looking at how I can make it more fairer within the team. Of course, the people who aren't the superstars at the present moment thought it was a great idea. The people that were superstars didn't think it was such a great idea. I had a business partner we've worked very, very well together for 6 years. I was subservient to him because he was the major team sponsor. That changed last year. And I make no bones about it. I feel that I have much more experience in triathlon, not just than Alex Bock or teamTBB, but I think everybody in the sport. I've trained professional athletes to have people who train with me or used to train with me at every Olympic Games have had gold medals. We've won Hawaii. We've won, I don't know how many, they keep count, I never kept count, how many Ironmans we've won over the last 6 years since we started doing long course. I've ran races, I train age groupers, I've trained age groupers. I have what I would consider the most all-round knowledge within the sport. Now, saying that, people say you're arrogant. Well, that's why I've left, even though I own half the sport, half teamTBB. I don't find that arrogant. I'm just saying to everybody, well, you're not following the direction I believe we should be following, and that's fine, carry on. But I'm not going to be a part of becoming the establishment when the establishment stands for elitism. And at the present moment, the reason why I'm the coach I am is not because I'm a great coach. It's because I see the future quite well, and I take an athlete and I say, that's where you're capable of going, that's your ability level, that's where I work from, and I work backwards. That's where I want to get. That's where we're going to get. If you give me your attention, you give me your sweat, your tears, that's what you're capable of. Well, I just did the same thing with teamTBB. I believe teamTBB was the perfect setup for us, and we would work very hard to get in a position where teamTBB could now say to people, okay, now we're going to change the sport. Now the people within teamTBB, whether it be because of lack of courage, or whether it's because of they think it's all going quite well, I look across the spectrum and see we're not making a difference in the sport anymore. And that's why I've decided to go my own way. I feel very upset about it, not because of who I left, but because, I think I'm now back 3 years, because it'll take me another 3 years to put the platform that teamTBB has to implement changes within the sport.
And is that why you released a press release fairly recently saying that you wanted the freedom to be able to criticise those who were controlling the sport, because you could see that they weren't using it as a vehicle for change, and it was more of the corporate same old?
It comes to the same situation. It's, I'm an ex-professional boxer. You know your enemy. Now everybody thinks WTC is my enemy, and he's always knocking WTC. If you look at everything I've ever said, that's the last thing. See, I don't believe the guys at WTC are doing a bad job. If I was the CEO at WTC and I was told that you're the CEO and you have an obligation to your shareholders, then why would I give all the considerations to the sport people? What people in the sport doesn't understand is WTC and triathlon, Ironman, is not a sport. So it's a business, it's a brand. And now it's owned by an entity. How it got there, it shouldn't have ever got there, but it's there now. So from my point of view, yes, I'm criticising not WTC. I'm criticising how the sport could be done better that's run within the boundaries of WTC. So if I see a situation where a world championship is decided by someone who knows nothing about the sport and about a bunch of age group men now racing as pros, and I say something, I'm viewed as somebody that's discriminating against my own team, because we now see at teamTBB some discrimination already coming across those athletes. I'd hate to be the person that be seen as we've already had maybe one or two, depending on how you want to debate it, championships taken away because of bad architecture within a race series. We have a situation where we have a world women's championship, so-called, and they're racing the men, and there's no reason for that. So, I like to talk about those things. But when I get censored on my own website because what I've got to say is too controversial for this particular period of time, well, then you have to look in the mirror and say, well, am I in the right organisation? I looked in the mirror. Unlike most people, I make decisions on athletes every day. I made a decision. The way teamTBB is, it's nothing more than a Commerce Bank. It's nothing more than a K-Swiss team. It's nothing more than a tried to buy team. Now, does that hurt me to say that? Yes, but that's what it is. And my job was to use the team always to develop a social awareness, which we've tried to do. And my job always was to try to use the team as an instrument of change. I don't see that anymore. And so from my perspective, do I shut up? Do I sit there? Do I fight with the owners of who owns what and where? I don't have time to do that. And so basically that's what it was. It was no basically falling out with Alex. It's just like all businessmen, they agree to disagree. And I've agreed to disagree. With the athletes, I've had no problems. I've never had any problems. But I do have a problem with athletes who are struggling and are getting money when they shouldn't have to make it work. And then when they get to the stage where they're not struggling, and let's face it, that's only in their own mind. They're all struggling. They're all struggling. Anybody that says, I'm the world champion at triathlon, the hardest trained sport in the world, and I get $250,000 a year, it's embarrassing. So of course I realise that. Now the difference is, unlike most people, I'm not sitting on my ass thinking the next big sponsor is going to come along to WTC, and WTC is going to take that $5 million sponsor and put it into prize money. Because it would be absolutely negligent of the CEO to do that. But am I the only one in the sport that understands that? So I'm the bad guy that's attacking them? His job is not to take that money and give it to the athletes. It's the athletes' job to put themselves in a situation that they force him to take the money and do that. And so that's why I left teamTBB.
And going forwards, can you elaborate a little bit more on your plans?
Well, that's difficult, and that's why, because the plan was to have teamTBB as the launch pad. Mm-hmm. And so basically we were building to have a 10-team world situation, and all independent, and then basically have athletes within that team, and then to reach out with people within age group triathlon. And one of the things that I wanted to change this year that was debated and was turned down is I wanted to open the team up to age groupers. I wanted to have the same situation as what I'm talking about races. I wanted the age groupers to have the same stakeholders in teamTBB team-wise as what the pros do. And so that was going to be done through a fan club base and then possibly have age groupers within each particular team. Now, I would still like to do that. And so what I'm going to do, what we're going to try to do over the next couple of months, is create an opportunity for people to show their allegiance and say they do want change. And so, for instance, if we still want an English team, if I get people who want to support an English team and they come through my social media and they come through the website and say, you know what, we want to have this. We want to have change. We want the team in England or wherever, or America. Okay? What we need to do is we need to band together. And that's what's necessary at the present moment. What I'd like to do is at the present moment we're working with Mexico, that's where I am now. We have an absolute flourishing social project going. I'm very proud of that. Okay, I will continue for that to happen. And so basically I've got a second option. The first option is that we work together with the age groupers who really want change. That's why I've put up, I've never even done the math, you know me, $100. Why that? Because it's a nominal amount of money. That's 3 long rides worth of power bar and all that rubbish that they eat on a long ride. So I thought, well, you know, if people can ride a $15,000 bike, they can spend $20,000 a year on stuff, $4,000 on race entries, surely they can put $100 to say change. And they're asking, Sutto, what's your plan? And Sutto doesn't have a plan. He never has a plan. He has a vision. That's why we've got 35 World Championship wins, because we had a vision. You can't get to your vision if you've got a rock-hard plan, because sometimes you're going to hit the rocks. But if you can't change direction because you're going to hit the rocks, because the plan becomes the worst enemy. So my vision is to get 3,000 to 5,000 people over the next 6 months with like-minded and say, you know what, Sutto, there's $100. Okay? Don't tell me how you're going to do it. Do something. Set it up. Show us where it's going to go. That's what I want to do. Meanwhile, what I'll try to do is in Mexico, of all places, but it's true. It's the place that's more serious than anywhere else. I want to show the model. And I'll say, this was the Sutton model. This is what he wanted to do. And look, here it is. We've done it. We've got it right. We've spent 12 months on it, and here's what happens in Mexico. Does your country want this? Would you support this as an age group? You have a pro team. You have an age group team. You have your own race. And the own race gives money back to the age groupers. They give money to the pros. The promoter or the club cannot take any more money out of the bin than what's given to the age grouper and given to the pros. That's what I want to do. And so, at the present moment, you know, we're getting together a little website. Hopefully we're going to, Alex has told us, and I think it's true, the interviews that we're given about what I think about the sport that we're going to be released before Kona, that weren't released, like our tweet now has been put up. So then, you know, over a period of time, the next 2 weeks, we'll release these interviews. And then after that, I'm going to, you know, hopefully we'll have a website that if people want to pledge $100 to, and I'll say, okay, that's the vision. This is how we're going to go about it. Now I need you to put your hand in your kick, take your money out, and say, for $100, I'm willing to back you to change the sport. And to do that, I can tell you where it's going to start with first, is it's going to go towards building a team in your area. It will not be the world's greatest team, but it will not have just pros, and it will just not have age groupers. Because this is what's wrong with the sport. Everybody does the same thing. The age groupers saying, what do I get? The pros are saying, what do I get? And all we're getting is nothing and going nowhere. But we're going to take the soft options. Well, I don't want to take the soft options. The option is we need to get hardcore people who say to me, Brett, I'm with you. Let's get it going. You know, let's put these teams back into place. Let's right the ship, get it up and going, and then show us how we can make a difference. And then in the end, if I can get one race, or one big race promoter, one big race promoter's there, like what happened to Penticton, and now they're going, oh my God, that challenge race was terrible. If I could get one race, and they said, Brett, come and run it the way you want, and then I get 2,000 people go to that race, and give me the entry fee that they pay challenge, because the other one's obscene. Okay? I could change the sport. We could change the sport. Those 2,000 people in one day could go, oh my God, that's what the sport could do? Because the people coming into the sport now don't understand how it used to be. So, you know, people say to me, oh, you're retro. I don't think that's a bad thing. Triathlon, when I first come into it, was a fantastic sport. You know what I mean? It was not run by money. I know with our clubs, I used to run a race. I ran a race and give 30,000 to age groupers. Nobody knows that these days. Impossible. You can't make a profit. I went to Europe and took 6 kids to Europe off the back of the profit of that race, because our triathlon club wasn't trying to make a killing. They wanted to run their club, they wanted to help the juniors, and they wanted to give back. So we actually put the $30,000 into the age groupers, and it never went to whoever went first, second, and third. So people say to me online, you know, it's an unproven method. No, everybody goes to these races they're seeing at the present moment with the great big productions, and they say, well, we can't do that. I don't care if your local club runs a 3K run, a 200 swim, and a barbecue after it. That can be run exactly the same on the lines that I'm talking about as what a major Ironman can. And that's what we're talking about, making a difference, the foundation. I don't want my teams to have teamTBB written on it. I want my team to say, we say no to drugs, obesity, violence, through education. And then I want a part of everybody's donation or entry fee to go to the education of kids to help them say no. Because people don't realise why kids say yes. It's not because they're bullied into it, it's because they do not have the confidence. They do not have the education. How do I get around someone that's in the toilets making me take drugs? How do I get around sitting in McDonald's with all my friends and not eating a burger? You can't do it. How do I stop being bullied because I've got beliefs that are different to what society is today? You educate people how. There's ways. You don't have to be a fighter, but you have to have the confidence. And that's why dropping the education part of it and the social project I want no part of it. If not a dollar or some part of the dollar comes out of every race to go to that social education, well, then it's not worth being in triathlon. You know, I'll go coaching boxing or tennis, or I've got plenty of strings to my bow, and they're all got a lot more money than triathlon. But I just truly believe from the day I started triathlon that this sport was about people, it was about fitness. It was about getting yourself in a better shape than you were yesterday. And then all of a sudden along the line, it became hype. And then the hype become, you know, this is what you have to do. I don't believe anybody should have to do an Ironman. I don't think any age grouper should be competitive. They should be competitive of making themselves fit and healthy and use the sport. Swim, bike and run. I couldn't believe it, and I do it now with my wife when she's on holidays. Has a swim one day, a bike the next day, run the next day. And on the seventh day, rest. Where do you get better? Where do you get a better fitness? Where do you get a better mental escapism from the everyday life that we're dealing with? That's what I want to do in the future. I can tell you, leaving teamTBB just made it 10 times harder. So, you know, you go back to the drawing board and you start again. It's not something I've done plenty of times, so that doesn't frighten me. The first thing we want to do is get out what I thought about the sport. The next thing is I want to have a platform for people to say, you know what, I want that. I want that. I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is. And then if we can get enough just to get it rolling, we'll put a little team in England. We'll put a little team in America. It won't be massive, but we'll get it started. But then when it does get massive, then we will have it. And then we will develop it up. And then we will be an alternative. And nobody will do a race under our name that doesn't do 30-30-10 or 30-30-30-10. The whole ideal in my mind is race promoters or clubs do not take any more money out of the pot than the professionals. The professionals do not take any more money out of the pot than the age groupers. And the age groupers get treated fairly for their dollar. And out of all that, every dollar that comes in, a portion of that goes to social education against drugs, obesity, and violence. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm going to try to do. And I most likely will fail. But you know what, Robbie, with everything I do, I've never died wondering. So basically, that's what I'm about. That's what I hope to do.
Great, thank you, Brett. Thanks for your time, and I'm sure there'll be more of these videos to come in the future.
Well, we hope so. We do our best. Thank you.